Hello, this is Chuck Ridgway, Automation Technology Manager at Horner. Thanks for joining us for another Tuesday live stream. Today we're starting a new series called What Should I Use? In this series we'll be comparing different Horner all-in-one controller models so you can make the very best selection for your next project. Today we're comparing Micro OCS and XL Prime. Okay, let's get right to it. Let's break down today's topic. All right, we're going to start by summarizing the Horner all-in-one controller lines before we dive into the details on the Micro OCS and the Prime. We're going to look at each product line individually, look at the different models within each line, and then we're going to compare the two series in a number of key areas: control capabilities, the I/O options available, the graphics features, communications. We'll take a look at some of the peripherals that are supported by each series, as well as the environment in which they are used. All right, here we go. Okay, so let's summarize the main all-in-one controller product lines from Horner. So we have the Micro OCS series, which is our entry level. We have the XL Prime series, which is our link to the past, and the hugely popular XL series, which is our mid-level. And we have the new Canvas, which is our top level series. Another way to look at it is that the Micro OCS is what you would use for simple applications. The XL Prime series provides advanced machine control, and the Canvas builds upon that advanced machine control, adding advanced graphics and IIoT. All right, so that's a summary of the main Horner product lines. Now let's dive into the individual models of the Micro series. All right, let's start with the X2. Now this is a pretty unique model in the Micro series in that this is the least expensive controller from Horner, as well as one of the few that still has a monochrome screen and one of the few that is a key-based user interface. In other words, it's not a touchscreen. It also is the only Horner product these days that does not have an Ethernet port. So you might wonder, well, why is this product, which seems to be pretty stripped down, why is it part of the product line? Well, if you compare it not with, other touchscreen type PLCs or all-in-one controllers, but you compare it against something like, say, a programmable relay, it is incredibly powerful. Maybe not as powerful as our other products, but very powerful in terms of the amount of logic that's supported, the amount of I/O that's built in, versus a typical programmable relay. And yes, it costs a little more than a programmable relay, but it can do a whole lot more. So the X2, again, is the entry-level point within the entry-level Micro OCS family. Next, we move up to the X4, and the X4 is really a popular model, maybe the most popular model that Horner offers today in terms of unit volume. So it is the entry-level point when it comes to the lowest cost color touchscreen and the lowest cost Horner product that includes an Ethernet port and full Ethernet functionality. I mean, it's also in a very compact size, which can fit in a lot of different applications. It's very thin, very easy to fit in, again, a number of tight applications, but yet it still offers a very nice 4.3-inch color touchscreen with nice resolution. Now, the next two products in the lineup are the X7 and the X10, and really what they offer above the X4 is just larger screens that give you the ability to put more objects on the screen and to have really more visible to your operator at any one given time. So the 7-inch color model these days in the industry is the most popular small to medium-sized machine control, and the X7 is also very popular in the Horner Micro OCS product lineup. The X10 is also very popular as it makes the screen even larger with even more objects and data that can be displayed on a screen at any given time. You can also, of course, if your objects are larger, you can also see them from a further distance away from the apparatus. So again, the 7-inch and the 10-inch models, what they really offer is more screen real estate, and they're very popular. All right, taking a look at the I/O capability in the Micro OCS, there are two main factory options with the product family. So you have the Model A, which is strictly solid state from a I/O standpoint, and then you have the Model R, which offers some relay capability on the output side of things. And really all the models have the same two options. The Model A is a total of 30 I/O points, 12 DC in, 12 DC out, 4 analog in and 2 analog out. And the Model R is identical to that, except on the output side it uses 6 relays and 2 low current solid state outputs as its options for the output side of things. Now 4 to 20 milliamps is what's supported on the analog side, and you've got 4 inputs and 2 outputs. In the case of all the models except the X2, you can also connect RTD temperature sensors to the analog inputs, provided that a -50 to +200 C temperature range is sufficient for your application. So a really nice I/O complement with the micro OCS, but primarily 2 options that are very similar to each other with the exception of the relay support on the Model R. Taking a look at the communications capabilities, very capable in the case of basic communications, factory communications when it comes to the micro series. Now we mentioned the fact that the X2 does not offer Ethernet. It does offer the rest of the serial ports and CAN ports for I/O expansion and those sorts of things. But really, if you take a look at this list of communications capabilities and compare it versus the competition, not versus other Horner series, but versus the competition, there's a vast amount of communications capabilities built into this as compared with a lot of our competitors. The basic industrial Ethernet protocols are supported, Ethernet IP as an I/O adapter, Modbus TCP, client and server, the ability to remotely monitor and control over a web interface with WebMI support, and also support for CAN Open as an optional protocol, as well as support for BACnet. BACnet building automation and control can be supported with an optional field upgrade, whether that's over Ethernet or whether it's over a serial port. So really quite capable on the communication side of things, especially when you compare it against competitive product lines from other manufacturers. All right, now we're diving into the Prime series, starting with the entry-level point into Prime, which is the X5 Prime. Now the X5 Prime is a little bit of an outlier in that it is unique in that it has its own unique I/O complement. So it's available with one option from an I/O standpoint, and that is with 4 digital in, 4 analog in, and 4 digital out. That's the I/O complement that it comes with the X5 Prime. However, that's about the only area where it's limited. In terms of its logic capability and the volume of program and variables it can support, all of the other peripherals and everything else, it is purely a Prime series model. So it has become very popular in the Prime series and really builds upon kind of the original market created by the X5 model itself. Today, these days, pretty much all the X5 users have transitioned to the X5 Prime because they really get more speed, more capacity, plus everything that made the X5 popular in terms of its capabilities of being completely free from batteries and those sorts of things. All right, so this is the X5 Prime, which brings the 4.3-inch form factor, which is very popular, into the Prime series. All right, moving up, we now get into some of the other models. The XL4 Prime, the XL6 Prime, the XLW Prime. So the XL4 Prime is a quarter DIN size. So it's very popular. The XL4 product from our XL series has been one of our most popular models for years. So it's important to maintain it with a Prime model. And it features a standard quarter DIN cutout, which means it can fit in some fairly tight spaces as well. Now the XL6 Prime is kind of a nod to the past. So it wasn't that long ago that 5.7-inch and 10.4-inch HMIs were the most popular sizes. And because we support OEMs at Horner, we want to give them the ability to maintain the control sizes or the screen sizes on their machines for as long as possible. So we've maintained the XL6 Prime, or the 5.7-inch size, in our product line just to keep them with the ability to maintain that size if they choose. Now today, as I mentioned earlier, the 7-inch screen size is the most popular. So the other thing we've done for our OEMs is we've given them a 7-inch screen in the exact same cutout as the 5.7. So those are 2 really nice options in the Prime series. Either maintain exactly the size from the past or build on that in the same cutout with a slightly larger screen. All right, moving up to the next products in the series. Effectively, from this point forward, you get some extra capabilities. So from the XL7 Prime and up, you get extra communications capabilities plus audio. We'll talk about those features in a little bit. But basically, for OEMs that want to have a dedicated Ethernet network on their machine and still provide to their customers a dedicated Ethernet port of their own to add to connections for, let's say, an ERP system or maybe to a SCADA system or to their control room, the XL7 Prime and above give OEMs those two dedicated ports for those purposes. And the XL7, as part of our XL series, has been an extremely popular model for years. So once again, we carried it through with Prime. And again, the XL10 Prime is a nod to the past. When 10.4-inch screens were some of the most popular, we're giving our OEMs the ability to maintain those screens for as long as possible. And then moving up to the XL15 Prime, this is the largest screen available from Horner. So if you need just a lot of objects on the screen, whether that's data or what have you, the XL15 Prime might be for you because, again, it is the absolute largest screen we offer at 15 inches diagonal and a 1024 by 768 resolution. All right, now let's take a look at the I/O options for the XL Prime. Now, we've already talked about the fact that the X5 Prime is unique in that it has fixed I/O of 4 in, 4 out, and 4 analog in. So only one model available for the X5 Prime, so that is what it is. However, all other models feature 6 different factory options, as dictated in the chart to the right there, ranging from no built-in I/O at all the way up to 42 I/O points for the Model 4. Now, some of the more popular models among these 6 would probably be the Model 2, which has 12 in, 6 relay out, and 4 analog in. It's very cost effective, and it's the lowest cost model that includes built-in I/O, and there's a lot you can do with that I/O. I mean, you can even just wire it to operators on the panel. You can use the built-in high-speed counting. It's just a very popular model. And then the Model 6 is also very popular because of the fact that it has great analog support. So it supports 6 high-resolution universal analog inputs for thermocouples, RTDs, voltage, and current with at least 16-bit resolution. And then it also supports 4 analog outs that can be voltage or current. So very popular. And one of the things about the XL Prime series from the XL4 Prime on up is that it supports a lot of different sensor types. So again, not just 4 to 20 milliamps or maybe a limited range RTD, but you've got 0 to 10 volts, thermistor, thermocouple, RTD in their full range, again, in higher resolutions available as well. So analog capabilities are quite a big upgrade over the Micro series, which still has very good basic analog capability. All right, now let's take a look at the communications options in the XL Prime. So really, the XL Prime builds upon everything the Micro series supports, and then it just adds to it. So as I mentioned earlier, the XL7 Prime on up have 2 LAN ports and 2 CAN ports available for extra field bus functions. Also, you can easily add Wi-Fi as either a second or a third port on the XL Prime series through the USB to Wi-Fi adapter available from Horner. So you could have as many as 3 Ethernet ports if you add Wi-Fi to a 2-port model. Also, there's some protocols that are supported with the Prime series that just aren't supported in the Micro series. For example, J1939 for mobile applications or even applications that are shipboard or agricultural applications. Lots of applications where J1939 could be an advantage, and it's available in the Prime series, not available in the Micro series. Also, if you're a user of Inductive Automation's Ignition web SCADA program, MQTT Spark Plug might be a popular way for you to push data in a modern way up to that system, that ecosystem. The Prime series supports MQTT Spark Plug as a field upgrade, a one-time field upgrade, where it is not supported in the Micro series, for example. So a lot more communications capability in the Prime, although it's very impressive what the Micro series can do at its low cost. All right, now we're going to start looking head-to-head at some of the key areas between the 2 series. We're going to start with logic capabilities. And this is where, when you take a look at the sheer numbers, you can really see there's a big difference in the horsepower between the Prime and the micro. Program size, 2 megabytes versus 256K. The number of variables, 10 times more variable support in the Prime. Scan rate, 20 times faster scan rate in the Prime series versus the micro. From a logic standpoint, that's all very similar. They both support ladder logic and standard IEC. Now with enhanced IEC, that is only supported in the Prime series. And what enhanced IEC primarily gives you is some simulation and advanced debugging capabilities. But really, just looking at those raw numbers of those first 3 or 4 parameters there, you can see there's a big difference in horsepower between the Prime and the micro OCS. But also another thing should be leaping out at you as well, and that is that the micro series, whereas more limited than Prime, certainly has a reasonable amount of program and variable capacity. And the scan rate is quite good as well. So, maybe in your application you don't need thousands of variables. Maybe the difference between a 5 millisecond scan rate total and a 20 millisecond scan rate total isn't going to make a hill of beans of difference in your application. So again, much more capable horsepower-wise on the Prime series, but it might not matter in your application. All right, from an I/O capability standpoint, I went through that pretty clearly when we went through the individual capabilities of the series. Just more I/O can be built in with the Prime, and that I/O can be more flexible in terms of the resolution of the analog, the types of analog signals, those sorts of things. So that's a fairly clear difference between Prime and micro, but for the most common, most basic types of I/O, the micro supports those very well. All right, now graphics capabilities. This is an area we should focus on a little bit because certainly it's another area where the sheer horsepower of the Prime makes a difference. So it can support many more screens, it can support more objects per screen, and when you change screens, you will notice a faster change in the screen time. So it may only take 10 milliseconds to change from screen to screen on the Prime, whereas it would take about 100 milliseconds on the micro. Now, why is that important? And 100 milliseconds still sounds pretty fast, and it is pretty fast. However, 100 milliseconds is where your brain starts to notice the change a little bit. So if it gets much slower than that, then you might notice. So if you're looking for the absolute snappiest response time possible on your screens, and you've got a lot going on those screens, maybe a lot of trending, or maybe just a lot of objects on the screen with a lot of different screens you need to configure, that's where the Prime will certainly make a difference over the micro. However, the micro does have good basic screen capability, and if there's nothing really all that special that you're doing in your application from a screen standpoint, the micro is probably going to work for you very well. On the communication side of things, again, the micro does very well communication-wise, especially when compared with our competitors. The Prime just builds on that and supports more and more above and beyond what the micro can do. And then from a peripheral standpoint, let's take a little bit of a look at this. Okay, USB-A ports are available on every Prime unit, not available on the micro series. So that means flash drives, that means the Wi-Fi to USB adapter. Those are supported on the Prime series. Those are not supported on the micro series. However, you do have micro SD support across both, so you can still do data logging and all those sorts of things that require a removable media object. You do have micro SD support on the micro series. And then some of the advanced peripherals like audio output capability and video playback for maybe help videos on your machine, those are only supported in the Prime series. And the audio out specifically is only available from the 7-inch, the XL7 Prime and higher. Okay, and then from an environment standpoint, the standard specs for temperature are very similar, -10 to +60. They're more than similar, they're identical. However, with the Prime series, if you have a really tough environment, maybe one that gets really cold, for instance, for an outdoor environment, you've got some additional options for wider temperature range models with the Prime series that are not available in the micro series. Now, they're both Class 1 Division 2 hazardous location rated, although with the caveat that the XL15 Prime does not yet have its rating because it's so new and because all the standards labs are so far behind post-COVID, they're still burying out. So it's taking us manufacturers a lot longer to get our approvals than it did pre-COVID, for instance. But both of which, good specs for the environment standpoint. But again, if you have a especially tough environment, the XL Prime is going to offer some advantages there. So we've looked at the individual models in each series. We've looked at kind of a specification battle from head to head. When would you use the micro OCS? Well, if you've got a simple application, there are so many applications out there that don't require, a lightning fast scan time, that don't require 2 megabyte programs, that, a few hundred or a couple thousand variables is plenty. So the micro series is at the right price point with the right capability for most simple applications. And it's frankly the reason why this has become one of our more popular series, is just because it's got that right price to performance ratio. So the micro OCS, yes, it's more limited, but it is still extremely capable, especially when compared to competitive models in its price range. Now on the Prime series, there are lots of reasons to use the Prime as well. You need more memory, you need higher performance. Your physical environment is a little more challenging. You need a very large screen. Again, the 15 Prime is the largest model Horner offers from a screen standpoint. Maybe you have some more specific, higher performing needing I/O options. So maybe there's some sensors that are important in your application that aren't supported well in the micro series, and you're gonna look at the Prime series for that reason. You've got some advanced communications requirements, maybe that MQTT spark plug, or maybe something like J1939 are important in your application. So there's plenty of reason to use the Prime as well. Okay, so today we've taken a look at the micro OCS versus the XL Prime. And if I were to summarize it very quickly, I would say that there are some obvious horsepower differences between the Prime and the micro. The Prime is just much more powerful. However, for a simple application where you don't have a lot going on from a capacity standpoint or a raw speed standpoint, you don't have a ton of screens or a ton of objects per screen, and the screen switching time is perfectly sufficient for what you need to do. In that scenario, the micro OCS is an excellent choice, but if you do go above and beyond what that product line can do, the Prime is an excellent choice. So again, the internal horsepower is probably the biggest difference between the micro and the Prime. Now next week, we're going to be looking at the Prime versus the Canvas. And if you think, well, the biggest difference between micro and Prime was internal horsepower, that's probably the biggest difference between Prime and Canvas, you would be mistaken. There's much more subtle differences than that, but significant differences to take a look at for sure. So we look forward to next week when we compare head-to-head the Prime series and the Canvas as part of our series of what should I use to help you decide what is the best OCS all-in-one controller for your next application. Okay, so that does it for our topic for today. Reminder, we're here every Tuesday at 2 o'clock with somebody standing by to answer your questions if you're watching live. If you're watching on replay, like a lot of you do, we've always got the ability for you to leave questions and comments in the comment section, and we reply to those, just not in real time. Lots of ways besides YouTube to interact with Horner Automation, including our website as well as LinkedIn. We've got a couple training classes coming up in the fourth quarter. We've got the basic training in early October and the advanced training in early November. So don't forget to sign up. There are a limited number of seats today. If you missed us last week at IMTS in Chicago, you can check us out at the WEFTEC Water Industry Show in New Orleans in early October. I'll be down there Monday through Wednesday. Looking forward to seeing lots of customers and talking to folks in the water industry. Okay, a reminder, next week, part 2 of our 2-part series, we'll be looking at XL Prime and Canvas. What should you use in your next application? Tune in and see. Okay, until next week, when we compare the XL Prime series and Canvas, let's all get out there and automate something.